crowd. Thanks for coming out this evening. Our speaker this evening is Richard Olsen. He talked to us October 7th, 2010 was your last presentation. Richard is a research geneticist. He graduated from NC State with a couple of degrees along the way. Bachelor's degree in landscape design in '98, and he went to Georgia for his master's degree, 2001, and then he came back to NC State and got his doctorate in 2006 working with Tom Ranney. Richard is a research geneticist at USDA Ag Research Service in floral and nursery crop plant research. He leads the urban tree breeding program, and his research focuses on genetics, breeding, and selection of superior landscape trees with improved resistance to pest problems, pathogens, stresses. He also is in charge of the germplasm repository. Richard's title this evening, you know, there are some words that you can't say. Some of them will get your mouth washed out with soap, and others you just can't get your tongue around them, so bear with me on this. Esoteric, exotic, and enigmatic plants of questionable merit. And as he has a handout, I'll get you one if you don't have one. But you notice on here things that are questionable merit. Tony Avent shows up right there somewhere, along with several other folks. So give me a show of hands and I'll go get some handouts. Richard, you're on.
Thank you, Ted. Get choked up here all of a sudden. It's like old home week, actually. So graduated in '98. Kemper Covington in the house. We graduated together from the landscape program. And Elizabeth Overcash works here now. She's graduated in our class as well. So we're getting old, Kemper. But it's nice to see everybody and be back. You guys are my guinea pigs. Because I feel like I'm amongst friends, so I don't have to bring my A game. I can bring my sort of my developing A game. This is a new title, and the concept of this talk came out of, we're always asked to give the latest and greatest plant talk. What's new, what's rare, what's hard to get, what's the latest and greatest. And we all know that not everything is what it seems, especially nowadays with marketing. So I thought, well, how come we never get asked to give the plant talks that, you know, plants you should not grow? And so that's sort of what I've been thinking about. Well, I realized that when I finally sat down to put this together that I didn't have the images of the plants that I wanted to talk about. And then I realized that's why we never give talks on plants we don't want to grow, because you don't take a picture of an ugly plant. So it sort of became hard. So there's a couple of things that goes on in this talk. And one of them also is actually that a good plant someplace is a bad plant someplace else. And so, and that may be in locality or in space or time, okay? And so hopefully you'll see that. And also, what can we learn from these weird plants that people tend to gravitate to and make selections and give strange names to that really should never have been selected in the first place. So anyway, so it's sort of an amalgamation of all those ideas, and I hope it works. I hope you have fun. We got a lot of slides to go through. I told my mom last night. My mom's here. Still support me. Not financially, but morally. She's very proud of that. My dad's advice, I remember this, was when I was going to transfer to horticulture was, I don't care what he does as long as he can make money. It's essentially paraphrasing what it was. So I'm sure he's proud too. So, I've shown this quote before. I don't know, are there any of my Guilford County groupies here? No? Okay, sorry. I love Guilford County. They have a great symposium over there. And I use this a lot because I like David Fairchild for a number of reasons. David Fairchild is probably pretty much why the USDA plant exploration program exists in the first place. You may know him from Fairchild Tropical Botanical Gardens. But this is in Bailey's Encyclopedia of Horticulture, and I love that. And that sort of still fits today. But in this case, conservatism of taste is probably a good thing for some of the plants we will see. But when I was last here, thank you, Ted. I couldn't remember when I was last here because I always get paranoid that I have to show you things that I haven't shown you before, because I've been around a while now. I was giving some talks, and I was like, oh, I don't want to tell the same thing or show the same thing. This is actually the last picture from that talk was Gavin, my son, my oldest son, who's now 5½. And I realized that I showed lots of pictures of him, but I have another son as well. So I had to show some family pictures in here because I know Rachel's over there dying to see some. So there they are. And that sort of wraps up their sort of attitudes. I don't know, that's a gym.
Is that outdoor plumbing?
Actually, this is funny. This is the day we came home from Christmas and they wanted to go outside and play with the boxes. So, not the toys. And there's Keller. Yeah, Keller's on the right. He's named after our favorite soccer player, Casey Keller, from the United States men's soccer team. And Keller is, like his mother, will be the life of the party. He likes to be helpful. So this is Natty Bo beer, which is pretty much the worst beer in Baltimore. And but they're great. And you should try to raise your kids right and do interesting things. Keller is like his mom. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's very emotional. It's a fine line between happy and rage. So, no, don't say it. So here he is. He's very happy. Garlic. If you ever want to garden with a 2-year-old, plant garlic because they can handle a garlic clove. Try to get them to plant carrot seeds. A little difficult, but this is his garlic patch, and obviously don't mess with him. So Gavin was able to enjoy it, get the kids to slow down, and I actually did not set this up. He did this. I caught him, and I feel bad because all my pictures now are on iPhone. I don't carry my real camera anymore. And you know, you hope you raise them right and with proper etiquette. I did not teach him that. I swear, it's an automatic response. So this was the closest that my wife would get to having kids that would have tea time. So this was at a museum. So, but I try to teach them well-rounded education about plants and urban forestry, which is a little young to start with at 5 and 2. But they get mad when trees suffer as well, which is good. But I try not to, you know, I don't know what they'll be when they grow up. Gavin wants to be, during the day, he wants to be a scientist. And at night, he wants to be a rock star. That's what he has said. Keller has not informed us what he wants to be. But I try not to influence him too bad with horticultural plants. And there's the obligate plant room slide in England. And part of the reason I don't want to corrupt them is because of people like Tony. And Ted Stevens, you all know most of these people, I imagine. Ted Stevens from Nursery's caerulea. There's Dr. Durr, Michael Durr, right there, stealing cuttings at the Norfolk Botanical Gardens. Bob Head, also student stealing cuttings. Many of you, do you guys know Bob Head anymore here? All right, when JC taught, you know, the Head Lee boys in South Carolina and Seneca were huge. Well, Bob Head is the one that selected Teddy Bear Magnolia, okay? They're breeding their own lines of a lot of great plants. He's an incredible, crazy plantsman, and then Dr. Paul Capiello. So I had a great time coming up with people like this. And Dan Hinckley, they're kind of all bizarre people. This is a dirty secret. This is Dan is really upset that I have this picture. Dan is not a plant explorer, by the way. He just knows where to shop. This is Cairo Inn. I think you've been, Mark, where are you? Mark, have you been to Cairo Inn in Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, you probably haven't. So you just have to know where to shop and then tell a good story. And then other strange plant people that you know as well. Dr. Todd Lassane and John Rothling, who's still in North Carolina, which is great. So this is in Bosque. I called this the Bosque Shuffle before. As you go down every one of those plants, is a different plant. So in the plant world, you have this sort of continuum of crazies, from people like Dr. Durr now running his program. A good plant has to sell in the millions, right? All the way to Ted Stevens or Todd Lassane, where you can sell 5 and it's a great plant. So the great thing about our industry is there is a continuum, and it's great to be able to select all these plants. And this is probably it as well. Last one. Jim Berry used to be from Flowerwood, started up his own Jim Berry Nurseries in Texas. And this crazy guy, come on, NC State people, David Creech, Dr. David Creech from Stephen F. Austin. So he came here and did a sabbatical when JC was here. So Jim Berry's nursery, and this is today's reality for a lot of these people. Again, Jim wants to make money. David is a professor. So, no. So David loves great plants just like all of us, right? So, but this is what? That's horticulture, right? This is knockout rose. If you are a big nurseryman, that's a successful plant. Remember, it is a business. There's parts of this that that automation. It's a very fine margin. If you're going to fight that battle with the box stores, it's not pretty. It's bread and butter, but that's a reality. What is it, Tony? 75% of all our plant sales now are through the box stores, right? So what causes the plant to jump off of a shelf at Walmart or at Home Depot into your cart? Or your cart, probably not, but the rest of America that's buying plants. What happens when this happens? Does anyone know what that is? Where's Ann? Ann's not here today.
Rose rosette.
Thank you. Anyone know how long it's been in the United States? Since before the 1940s. That's when it was diagnosed. Actually, probably came in on the understock, Rosa multiflora. So they didn't know what it was for years, but it's a virus that is transmitted by the feeding of an eryphoid mite. It's devastating. So here's knockout rose. It got knocked out. It is rosetting, and the whole point, black spot-free roses, right? Let's not use pesticides, not use anything. Incredible plant. This has made Bill Radler a millionaire. This will make him cry. And Connor Powell has now come out and said, yes, you're right, rosetting is a problem. Now, to be honest, it's a problem on most of our roses. Okay? And you have it here, the J.C. Olsen, right, Ted? You're battling what to do with the rose collection. There are a few expensive chemicals or miticide that you can use. But is knockout a bad plant? It was an incredible plant. I would love to have bred knockout rose. Not because it's so popular, which is a bonus, but the concept was great. To actually have cracked it and said, look, this is a beautiful landscape rose. So that goes to sort of a mantra I was sort of thinking. I was like, I have a PhD, I'm supposed to be professorial, I'm supposed to have these great sort of one-liners. So I was thinking as I was driving south, a bad plant was once a great plant, somewhere at some time. The target that we're shooting for what is a great plant changes, even in your own landscape. I went to Tony's today, which was great to catch up with Tony and walk. But I'm walking through his gardens, and that used to be full sun when I was there, and it's shade. And so you could walk by that plant today and say, well, that's not doing very well. But things change around the plant, and then also styles change, and then new pests and new problems come. So what is a bad plant? Sort of made me thinking. And I did it near my favorite road. You ever see that bridge? It's a Squirrel Road on I-85. It's just, I don't know why. It always makes it. And then I think of squirrels. And it's tough. And I think about presidents and elections. 2008, great diversity in the White House, right? We have diversity in D.C. You ever seen the black squirrels?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Never? Yes? No?
Never.
Well, this was just too great to take a picture of. And so, actually, Don Shadow has harassed me since I came to D.C. to try to catch one of these because he wants it.
Black.
I've been in the National Arboretum with 26,000 plants and he wants a black squirrel. So I haven't done it yet. He said, they won't survive in a cage for sure. I don't know how you're going to do it. But what I haven't told him was I was able to get one shot. Notice the eye on that. What color is that eye? It's black. It's not the albino form. This is an actual other very rare form of squirrel that we have in DC that has the white mutation. There's the black, and then there's the common gray. Oh, I'm so happy that. So diversity. Yes, you love squirrels. The tree rats are great, right? But diversity. Where does it come from, and how do we use it, right? And so, and then you get people like Tony, and Tony is contributing to the problem. Because he makes it so fun. And no, here he is, and this is why he's contributing. This is a plant he showed me again today. This is this holly in the background is something I stopped and took a cutting off. I think it was near Gaffney, South Carolina, the rest stop of a contorted leaf holly. And I thought, well, I'll take cutting and see how it does. It's a female, had grapefruit. And there it is. And Tony really likes it. So he, on the spot, forced me to name it a couple of years ago. And so what is it? It's rollover, right, Tony? There was a time when the 40 explorers were having problems with rolling over. We thought, let's get a train right here. Let's call it rollover. But it's actually kind of a cool plant. Now, the reality is there are 1,000 cultivars in the Ilex opaca. Is it distinct? Probably. I think it's a really cool plant. Is it going to sell 1 million? No. Does that make it a bad plant? No. I think it's cool. If it inspires, if it gets people sort of thinking about plants and horticulture. And of course, I'm at the Arboretum, the National Arboretum, which is great and wonderful. We're just gone through some strategic planning. We really hope that, you know, when the strategic plan gets implemented, that we're really sort of pick ourselves up and are on the right path. And it sort of makes me think about what is bizarre, what is strange, what's a bad plant, what's a bad collection. This is the Chinese scholar stones at the National Arboretum. And this, for, you know, obviously somewhere ingrained in our conscience is this attraction to the bizarre, okay? So the Chinese scholars have used these for inspiration and sort of understanding how the natural world works. And we have this incredible collection of it. Unfortunately, we probably became more known for this collection and our bonsai than for our living plant collections, which is what I have an issue with. Delete that, Chris. No, I'm just kidding. You keep it. But anyways, hopefully we'll change it. It is beautiful art form. So what is bizarre? What is good? Now, this is our favorite Nandina domestica Atropurpurea nana. And I have changed diapers that look better than this. I don't. You know, it's caused by a virus. It's been cleaned up, and now we have cleaned up cultivars. And Nandina is wonderful. I don't understand the color Kemper, how do we work with this in the landscape? I don't know. Kemper is a great designer. And so now, I mean, we have ugly enough things in the landscape that we don't have to augment them with ugly plants. So it's sort of right, I guess. And this color implosion probably hasn't helped the selection of bad plants. I actually started thinking about this. I always do this. We all do this. You knew JC. And of course, I knew JC from a student point of view, not from a collegial point of view. And so, flash forward to 2012, I would like to have known JC from a collegial point of view and have conversations with him. And this plant was at the Denver Botanical, and I thought that is a god-awful, strange, wonderful, beautiful plant, but you would never tell a nurseryman to grow it. Does anyone have any idea what it is by looking at their sheet? It's round. Oh, I just remembered, I forgot to put a picture in this talk that I took. Oh, okay. So this is actually a honey locust. This is Gladicia triacanthus pincushion. Tony, ever seen it?
No.
Ha! Yes. We can go home. I also identified a plant that he was surprised today, so I feel like I'm 2 for 2. So anyway, so it's actually a really cool plant. But you know, how many are you going to sell a year? Would you market it? That's what JC was really good about. You know, he could go give a talk and tell someone how to sell, you know, Leland cypress. But then he could also go to a different group of plant people and say, this is a species of Mahonia. We don't grow Mahonias in the United States. You really should think about trying to develop this crop long term, right? And so he knew how to market plants. This is another. It made me think of that. I said, wait a minute, I've been taking pictures of plants like this for a long time. And this is Furnished Laurels cerastus camellifolia. You ever seen that one? Yeah, it's a train wreck. But it's sort of, you start thinking, you know, when you, after a couple degrees and a few beers, you start trying to figure out what's going on with those plants. Why are they doing that? That's kind of interesting. How can we take advantage, right? Plants I would never plant. Sorry, Tony, I know you have this, I think, still. This is Brucinetia papyrifera. This is Don Shadow's golden selection. Actually, you know, I wouldn't plant it, but I appreciate it when other people do. So it's a wonderful, I mean, the shocking gold is just unbelievable. But man, it can sucker and take over. Does anyone ever see a fruit of Brucinetia?
No, but that one is self-sowed in our garden.
This one has?
I got the season right.
I think we found out why, Tony. Hold on. Has anyone ever seen the fruit of a Brucinetia?
Yeah.
Where?
Across the street.
Thank you. Thank you. I showed it to Tony, and Tony, this is the third time I got Tony. He had never seen it either. I was so impressed. So across the street, why is it that those Brucinetias are setting fruit? They're the most bizarre things on the planet. I wish I had a picture. They're orange, sort of Sputnik-y, sort of fleshy. You can tell why it's not a Morris. But right across the street, and I noticed this after the J.C. Ralston dedication. I thought, God damn it. I've been studying for, how old am I, 98? Since 94. What was it? I can't even do the math anymore. Holy crap, 18 years I've been studying horticulture. And I've never seen a Brucinetia, but they've been around. And there it is. I come to J.C. Ralston, and right across the street is figure that out. Maybe it's because we have golden shadow now, and it's a male, and it's pollinating the females, and all hell is broken loose.
Yellow seedlings in the garden this year.
We'll get to this. See, thank you, Tim. I planted it in the garden. So there it is at Tony's. I think we passed it, Tony. You had limbed it up, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, you know, in 100 years when we're 7 degrees warmer, we'll probably all be growing those trees. There's Tony's garden. It's grown up. And it makes me think, oh, gold. You know, a lot of people have issues with gold. So this is Ulmus parvifolia. Look on your sheet, golden ray, named after the gentleman who found it. And I love lacebark elm. I hate lacebark elm. It is actually, it's a pretty, everywhere I've been, it's been a weed. So we have an issue now in the 21st century of, is this a good plant or is it a bad plant? Where does it fall and how do we use it? This is in Greenbelt, Maryland, where I live. That's Ulmus parvifolia LA. I've shown this picture before. That is not foliage in the fall, that is fruit in the fall. Everywhere I have ever gardened, this plant has been a bad problem. And it's a shame because it's such a beautiful plant. But Ulmus parvifolia, you know, I don't know what to do about it. This is Ulmus parvifolia in Ohio. The original USDA research plots that were breeding for elm resistance, Dutch elm disease resistance, cold hardiness in elms, also looked at Ulmus parvifolia, was not very hardy. This is their original block of Ulmus parvifolia in Ohio. Seedlings everywhere, and the trees have been destroyed by snow and ice. So it's been warmer. Lacebark elms have been moved up into Missouri. Actually, you can grow them in mass in Wisconsin now. It's been so warm. But really, from a tree arborist point, is Guy here? Guy, have you cleaned up a lot of these?
Several.
Yeah. So it just seems like, E.H. Wilson hated this plant. He actually despised this plant. He said it was one of the worst tree species he had known. Was Ulmus parvifolia, and he only recommended it in like Southern California until we got new provenance. And this is one reason why we all know this. So this is Callery pear in Washington D.C. When you drive into New York Avenue, this is what you used to see was Pyrus calleryana seeded around everywhere. And that's all seedlings, thanks to Glendale and USDA probably. But anyways, and there's tough decisions that get made. Anyone remember this plant? Who's been at J.C. Ralston long enough? When Denny Werner was this is Caesulpinia decapetala. Has anyone ever grown it, Tony?
Yep.
What'd you do with it?
We actually were the first ones in the country, I think, to grow it, and that's why we never offered it. It was misbehaved.
It's a quest, isn't it, Tony? A cold hardy Caesulpinia. If you know Caesulpinia, the bird of paradise tree or whatever it's called, you're like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. There's got to be a hardy one. And then you realize there's quite a few species. Well, some of them are climbing vine-like species, and some of them, well, most of them are covered in wicked thorns. And so all of that beautiful flower. This is Denny in bondage, plant bondage, the Caesulpinia. And so the decision was, this is something we can't really justify. There's too much risk, and it's a shame. And it's like 50 Shades of Green or something here, but this is a plant that maybe some of our plants have to be in bondage. This is Tetradium. You may know it as Evodia, and this is Tetradium denellii, which is in the Rutaceae, which is the citrus family. And for us, it's a bad weed. It's a very bad weed, even though it's been touted as very urban tolerant. We don't have a lot of urban tolerant trees left. We're giving them lots of problems. This is Tetradium ruticarpum variety Boldenerii. And this is from China. It's a large shrub, small tree form of Tetradium. Evodia, for anyone who knows Evodia, is a tropical genus with 3 leaflets. These should never have been known as Evodia. So it's not a name change, it's just a correction. They're all the temperate deciduous ones are Tetradium. So This is one of the U.S. National Arboretum. It's beautiful. It's covered in like a gray felt. New leaves coming out purple. It's getting ready to flower. The bees love it. In John Grimshaw's book, New Trees, it's touted as really, people in Europe really like it. We've had this since 1980 in Asian Valley, and the problem is this: that's all of its seedlings coming down out of that. And so what we know about Tetradium, Denelii, and then this plant, even though it's very beautiful. And I noticed, now when I was here with Tony in 2010, I saw this, I thought, this is sexy, this is a good plant. This was, you had it as a Evodia fargesii. I believe fargesii is a synonym for glabra. You have it here in the garden, I'm getting there, glabrifolia. Okay, and I thought, now that is the coolest Tetradium foliage I've ever seen. I was really excited about this. And then this morning, or this lunch, I walked by, and what do you have right out here, Mark? Tetradium glabrifolia. Do you see how much seed is on that thing? Watch it. I don't know how long you had it. Have you pulled up seedlings yet, Tim?
Not really, but I collected a whole bunch of seed last week.
You're going to distribute it? Okay.
Okay.
You might want to watch. It's a shame, but I mean, this was, Tony, it's one of those things, it's like, oh, this is a cool plant, what do we do? I'm not making a judgment on invasive or anything. It's a very, I'm tired of it personally. I think we have a lot of things wrong in this world that we can't fix. But it's something that is an issue, actually, that we're under executive order that we can't contribute to the invasive problem at the National Arboretum. So, Aeschylus, I love this tree. Great bark. Learned it here. We had some specimens here at J.C. Ralston, and it's a great tree. This is in Charlotte, out of focus, but the point is that's not English ivy, that's seedlings. Aeschylus. So what do we do? We're in this conundrum. Is it a bad plant? Is it a good plant? Does it get relegated to Botanical Gardens? I don't know. It's a tough plant. It's an amazing plant. Maybe the cultivars are okay. So this is Aeschylus and Wako Nishiki, very difficult trident maple to propagate. I love the foliage. It's just, and then in the fall, it sort of goes sort of green during the summer, and then in the fall, it sort of picks up pinkish tones and then red tones because of this sort of variation. I love this plant, but you know, it's kind of god-awful. It's like this glaring, screamy yellow that comes out, which is really cool, but a lot of people don't really like. They want, of course, you know, the old saying, you want to go out and fertilize it. And we're really bad about this in horticulture, aren't we? What happened to our Wisteria collection here? Does it still exist?
Yes.
Is it really? Oh, I thought there was plans to like get rid of it. Anyways, this is Wisteria floribunda mondishiki, so sort of a catch-all term for a lot of the variegated forms. But you know, you either love it or hate it, right? Is that a good plant or is it a good plant? It's been sitting in the National Arboretum. You can see. I guess Monrovia actually sells it. They actually buy it. And we sort of have this. Our eye is sort of drawn. Sorry, I pulled it back myself, so I'm sort of. Our eye is easily drawn to contrast. So it's easy to pick out variegated spores. And we've done it, added this item. We used to play this game. I'm really embarrassed to say this. With Tom Foley. Remember, anyone here remember Tom Foley when he was the assistant director? Well, and Ian Simpkins, remember Ian? So we would go on trips, and Tom Foley, Ian and I would be sitting, and JC would be there sometimes. Who knows where JC was sometimes. He was traveling a lot back then, right? And we would sit there, and the game was name a species of plant in horticulture that there is not a variegated form. So we would sit there and think, I've never seen a variegated form of this. I've never seen a variegated, and we were getting all excited. Oh, wouldn't that be great? We get to see a variegated form of that. And JC one time, we were at a conference, he came and he said, all plants are variegated, you just haven't found it yet. That he walked on, he didn't want to participate in the game. Everything, there's a variegated plant everywhere. It was almost like, you guys are crazy. And I am. I saved this plant. We were going to rip it out. This is an old Aeschylus. This is a European horse chestnut, an old cultivar called Meningeria, where the new growth comes out this sort of really bleached white and yellow. And we were ripping it out. This was one of the original plants that we brought back from Germany in the 50s. And it was in my field nursery. And I was like, I don't care. It's got to go. Let's propagate it and save it. And so we sent it to the West Coast. I figured, oh, it'll be good in the Pacific Northwest. Mark Krautman just sent me an email from Heritage Seedlings. He's like, you want this thing back? Because it is so ugly, we're not going to do anything with it. So he's sending me, and he's charging me like $120 shipping. It's a good nursery, but he got to make his money back because the thing was so god-awful ugly. But somewhere, this is a good plant. Aeschylus Venom. Somewhere, this was a good plant. This is Ulmus holindica, the hybrid redii, which is an old redii aurea. Actually, I labeled it wrong when we were formed. So that's it in all its fall glory at the Dolls Arboretum. Outstanding elm. I'm running out to get that. So I'm sure in England, that's a beautiful plant. Did you guys ever figure out what that elm is? What is that big elm by the parking lot? English elm, the suckers are here, buddy?
Yeah, it's English.
You don't know what it is, though? Okay, cut it down. And I do contribute. I've been warped by all these people. I contribute. I'm warping the next generation. This is a great intern that I had, Craig Carlson, who's now doing his master's in North Dakota State. Because he's from North Dakota. That's the only way you can get students, is to keep them in North Dakota. But this is a yellow seedling, a Catalpa speciosa that we saw on I-95. And God, it's bright. It actually looks, it's still yellow. We've got cuttings of it, but man, it's one of those yellows that sort of iridescent, and you're like, it's not worth it. It's one of those things you might save, and then when you go to Japan, take it over there and give it to the Japanese. It's trade. This is great. And they get something really cool. Oh, wait, I forgot another picture I wanted to show. The Variegated Plants, I didn't show. So anyway, and it's like a disease. I can't stop. This is a seedling I found, Tony. So this will be my second introduction. This is an Ilex opaca with yellow foliage that I saw in Beltsville growing in the woods. It looked sick and dead, and I thought, well, maybe it's just because it's growing in the wrong place, right? You know, JC's other famous thing, when he walked through a Botanical Garden and there was this horrible variegated plant growing in this full sun or whatever, and they were ripping it out, and he said, well, why are you ripping it out? And he goes, well, it's a bad plant. It's burning up in full sun. And he said, well, did you ever try it in shade? Well, maybe it's a good plant in the shade. So anyway, so I propagated it, they all rooted, we brought them out, and darn it, if it's not, yellow and pretty cool. It's not that cool, but it's not the perfect yellow. And I thought, I've already been beat by the punch. I couldn't believe it. This one exists. Have you ever seen this, Tony? This is Ilex opaca golden night. Anyone ever heard of a solid yellow foliage Ilex opaca? Do you want to know that there's a see, golden night? It's yellow. I mean, if you like Foster's, I was like, gosh darn it, this is pretty cool. There it is, Tony. Solid yellow, Doll's Arboretum. So I thought, man, people will propagate anything, and I'm one of them. But it was pretty cool. And this is great. This is my mom's first introduction. See, I've even tainted my mother. So this is in our garden in North Raleigh, and I think you called, Mom. I think you called and said, I put a flag. She was out spread. She was doing something, and she said, I think there's a yellow seedling of something. Now, I don't know if you planted it or if it's a weed. I said, well, just flag it, and then when I come down, I'll look at it. And sure enough, it was a little ash seedling that was yellow. It just came up, literally right where that smoke bush is. And so we watched it, and the first year it did well, and the second year the deer cropped it off. I was like, oh my goodness. And then, so that's why it's a branch. It came back. But that thing, when it comes out in the spring, is pretty darn amazing. I think it's Fraxin's caerulea. And so I took this as a comparison. This is Budlia Evil Ways, Tony, and everyone. Sorry, I keep talking to Tony, but I shouldn't do that. I'm going to turn around. Okay. Hearts of Gold, red bud, Ancot, golden smoke bush, and then the ash. So I'm thinking, this is great. This is a cool plant. And in the fall, it's okay. It starts to burnish. But I'm thinking, this is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Name a big urban tree that's yellow that's a big seller. Anyone? Laelia sunburst is the only one that I can think of. Yellow is not the color you want to have in the south as a big urban tree. But the real problem is emerald ash borer. This could have been a cool plant. I probably could have sent it to the West Coast and somebody would have grafted it and maybe watched it. But with emerald ash borer, the ash market has disappeared. So what do we do with all these old cultivars or potential new cultivars that maybe in the future we solve the EAB problem? What do we do with it? So it's sitting in my house. I don't know what to do with it. And we can name it Fool's Gold, Mom. There we go. We'll call it Fool's Gold.
I'll sell it to the highest bidder.
What?
I'll sell it to the highest bidder.
There you go. $6. So this is my experience now with emerald ash borer. So we're at Spring Grove Cemetery, and they have a budget The guys are on a $40,000 a year contract just essentially to remove the ash trees as they get to them. So this is a white ash that's dyed from emerald ash grove. Again, it's a sickness. I can do this all day. Magnolia fraseri, Pat McCracken is not here, but this is Pat McCracken would have flipped out, right? So there's a golden sport. So what does all this tell us? What are all these golden sports? This is Daphne odora, ringmaster. Okay, enough of the variegated plants. And it's unstable. So what does that sort of tell us? Well, it tells us some interesting things. This is, all right, get your pen. Okay, it's bright, you got light. This is the genetics lecture. Well, it tells us a lot. These mutants tell us a lot about how the plants develop at a cellular level. What are the genetic signals that go on in plants that determine the fate of a root tip, how it's structured, or what we really care about often above ground is the apical meristem, the bud, right? What's going on in the bud? So what happens in plants, and this is to cut it short, Denny Werner does a great lecture on this, is our plants are layered sort of like sandwiches. L1 layer is the outermost layer, then the L2, and then the L3. And so you can sort of see it, the outer layer and the inner and the L3. And this is stem cells. You know, you hear about stem cells in health. Well, plants have had stem cells forever. And so we can learn a lot of things about what's going on in the organization of this shoot with these mutants. Now, in botany, they try to make mutants on purpose in Arabidopsis and other plants so they can figure out what's going on. Actually, Botanical Gardens, and my friend and colleague, Dr. Michael Dozman in Arnold Arboretum, wrote a great article on botanical collections and the study of Evo-Devo, as we call it in the academic world, evolutionary development, because we have a great collection of mutants that we've been collecting for centuries that can contribute if the botanist would understand what a real plant looked like and get out of the lab and come out and study it. So, there's a market you haven't tapped into here. It's strategic planning, J.C. Rawson, write that down. Botany department, give them a map to where they are. That's an easy one. So here's the layers, and so it's a really interesting thing. I don't want to go into it because you guys get tired. I use this image all the time, but there's different parts of the plant are produced in different layers. And so Tony, I was talking about this before, about chimeras, but the epidermis, the outermost layer, is typically an L1. This is a variegated plant now. It's just easy to show you the variegated plant. L2 is this yellow layer right here, contributes a little bit to the leaf blade, and L3 contributes to the central portion. But what's important from a breeding standpoint is L2, this yellow part, is what makes up the cells that give rise to the pollen in the eggs. So this plant, even though it's variegated, when you use it, and this is a heritable trait, it will breed as a yellow foliage plant. So if you don't want a chimeric plant, breed this, and because the L2 is derived from these yellow mutant cells. All right, go home and think about that. But anyways, so I use this. I sent this to Denny Werner. I now feel like it's hard to consider myself as a PhD in collegial with people like Denny Werner that you sort of admired and were mentored by. But so I sent this to him for his class, and this is the concept in Daphne. Okay, everyone knows Daphne odora, winter Daphne, great plant. So this plant, all of the cells are regular throughout the whole plant. We call it GGG. All three layers are green. In this layer, only the outermost layer, the L1, is yellow. See that thin little line? So Daphne is unusual that it contributes from the epidermis. So YYG, a little bit thicker, but it can vary depending on clones. These are two different cultivars. And then here, green on the outside, yellow in the middle, green, yellow and then green. And depending on how many layers you're looking through, it changes. And then this is all YYY. So none of that would have been figured out. All that work was done in the 30s on chimeras, on mutants. Plants you would never have grown. So it's pretty cool. We also know, because of this, some plants, you will never have a stable chimera. If you're trying to get a stable chimera, you see this sport and think, if I can just get that nice wide yellow edge around it, you'll never do it in Anthony water. Spirea bumalda, or japonica Anthony water, because the rosaceae typically has only 2 cell layers. You only have 2 options in that leaf. You're either going to be a yellow cell or a green cell, and you're never going to have a stable condition. So it's important to know that. Same thing in conifers. Conifers, there's only 2 layers. You're either going to be yellow or green. You're never going to be a mixture of yellow and green. Look at it next time on a conifer. Each scale will be one color. So, monocots, whole another ballgame. Don't want to even get into that because of the way the cells divide. But not everything is a variegation. Not everything is work. Tony, you know this one? 'Cause surely you're the only one that would ever try to grow this. Anyone seen a yucca like this for sale? Have you paid for this? Please tell me. This is Yucca gloriosa spotted tiger. If you want to see Phil Normandy, this is in their collection at Brookside. So surely it's a Barry Yinger plant from Japan. That looks like 2,4-D damage to me. That's the cultivar. That's what I have. That it's probably, I don't even know what it is, but man, that is horrible.
Is that not viral?
It's got to be viral. I mean, and speaking of viruses, so this is our plant of Celtis sinensis green cascade, this wonderful weeping Chinese hackberry out front. Well, there's a virus that's being studied now. It was only discovered a few years ago in our native hackberries. Well, that's not fall color on ours. I don't know if you've seen that down here. That's virus. And not that hackberries had enough going against them to begin with, but now we have a virus that we have to contend with. So not all variegations are good. And it makes sense, actually. Up to 30% of the genome in plants are involved in photosynthesis. And most photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast. The chloroplasts have pigment. So it makes sense that we see a lot of variegated plants because there are so many genes that control that can go wrong. So it's a very common thing. So it's a very common virus symptom. And we've learned a lot about the organization and feedback in the cells. I won't get into that, but basically you have genes, negative feedback loops. It's all horribly complicated. But what happens is you get things like this. So again, Aeschylus hippocastinum crispa. So you've seen the coxcombs, right? The crested coxcombs. Well, what happens is there's a gene called CLAV3, which controls the organization of that meristem. And when it's knocked out, when that gene is broken, disrupted, you don't have organization in the meristem. This gene has been used in celosia breeding. They know what it does. It's been used in sunflower breeding. It's been used in tomato breeding. There it is. There's the mutant. I don't know why you would want to use this in ornamental breeding, but and that plant, and just to prove a point, the Dutch will grow anything, is for sale at Mark Bulk Nursery. I saw it. It's unbelievable. I don't know how you graft that thing. The side saddle must be like a double side saddle or something. It's just huge. And there are some crazy plant people, and there's one of them again, top of the same. And this is at Boehmer's Nursery in Europe, and this guy has gone crazy. That looks like you, Bob Davis. That's actually Mr. Boehmer and his wife, and then his son, and there's Todd. What they're waxing poetic about is this new dwarf Quercus rubra, so a red oak. Right? It's like, what do you do with it? It's neat, but what do you do with it? And this is funny because, there it is. Okay, this is funny. I missed a slide. But this was driving down on Wednesday. So I had great pictures of other ones, but I found this one. So this is a witch's broom right here. So a lot of these dwarfs come from witch's broom, right? You know the story of the loblolly pine. Well, this is where they would have come from, is a witch's broom like this. The whole top of the tree looks like these glorious pines, these loblolly pines out here. And so we know what those traits are. They're simply usually a dominant trait. Pines are outcrossing, so but this is my predecessor, Frank Santamore. I always love this quote. I had to clean out his office. He died on the job. I had to clean out my other predecessor's office and a third office. No one ever cleaned anything in the government side. I went through and got rid of all this stuff. But Frank Santamore is a very prolific writer, and he had these notes he just sort of left in folders. And I love this. In general, there are no good reasons for selection and cultivation of dwarf deciduous landscape trees. The setting amenable to this would be better for a shrub. So he's like, why are we taking a tree and turning it into a shrub? But Santamore his PhD was in forestry. To him, a tree had to be straight, and you had to be able to pulp it. Essentially, that was what a good tree was. So we've done this. We've selected lots of trees. A lot of these are just things that end up in collections. These are Theodore Klein's collections of Acer saccharum witch's brooms. Some of them have been introduced. I think this is Powhatan, I think is the name of that one now. They all had numbers. And this one I believe is called Natchez, but that's a sugar maple. Is it a good plant? Do you have 70 years for it to look like this? I don't know, but they're pretty cool. They give you lots of options. And the traits are heritable, so you can work with them. Maybe it's not the perfect plants. And again, I'm contributing to the problem. This is a Catalpa speciosa at the National Arboretum, and there was a giant broom up there. And I said, hey, have you ever seen this giant broom up there? Oh yeah, we saw it years ago, we just never really did anything with it. So, first day on the job, get a cherry picker. We go out there, we take cuttings, we put it into the field, it roots like a weed, you grow it, and it doesn't get powdery mildew, and it's hardier than what's in the trade as Catalpa bignoniotes dana, and we have a new and improved Catalpa witch's broom. I'm looking at it, I'm like, was that hard? Anyway, so we'll be sending this out for distribution. It won't be a game changer, but I guarantee, I don't guarantee you, but what's out there will disappear. It'll just be replaced with this, and this is a much better plant. This has bloomed for us. Typically they don't, and so I don't want to say they will because the plants are old enough now that they've had some flowers. If we can get it to bloom, then we would have changed it. But a lot of brooms don't flower very well. Again, those genetic signals. Basically, the broom, the meristems are saying, I'm perpetually young, in a sense. That's sort of what they're saying. So they don't ever really flower. So it's a very rare event. And again, we don't know. It's really all, the 21st century is really going to be the genetic century because we really have to take advantage and look at things not as, is that a good plant, but does it have the potential to contribute to a good plant. So this is Acer palmatum, Hero Shadare. This sort of overgrown thing tucked away in the back of the National Arboretum. It's an old cultivar. Shadare means weeping in Japanese. And it's been around in the trade for a long time. No one really cared. It wasn't really interesting as a mainstream plant. And there it is, Hero Shadare. Well, you know what this did? Anyone guess the next logical step? It gave birth, there it is, to that. That's Reusen. Reusen is a seedling off of Hero Shadare. All it took was a nurseryman saying, if I grow seed off that, I might get something better. And they did. They've got Reusen. So there it is, that plant, sitting in collection, and no one's taking it. So is it a bad plant? Well, it's got good genes, so we can take advantage of it. A lot of weeping plants. We've been selecting weeping plants all over the place. Again, the meristems. There's a signal. The geotropism element is gone. These plants don't know right from up. And there's different degrees of it. And they're heritable. Denny Werner has been working with these traits, right? In the weeping redbud. This is Hammel Malus Lombards weeping. So a weeping Hammel Malus. It's been around a long time. Lombards was a famous nursery in Belgium. Actually, we're at what used to be a Lombards here in Belgium at peak bloom time. And plants aren't always new. Plants have been around a long time. This is Nyssa savatica pendula. Weeping Nyssa has been around a long time. Now, it's not strict weeping. It's kind of an interesting plant. But how many weeping clones are there now? Lakeside weeper, gosh, I don't know. I've got a Nyssa cultivar collection at the National Arboretum. I probably have about 12 or 15 cultivars. And about 3 or 4 of them are weeping selection. Some of them are much better. And then there's this thing. I've showed this before, because this is an enigma. This is a weeping sweet gum. Liquid ambar, Cerasiflua, pendula. It was found in Arkansas in 1934, propagated, sent to the Arnold Arboretum, and they sent it to Germany because Alfred Raeder was a German, and he was really good friends with other German horticulturalists. And so in the South, we didn't have a lot. We didn't have a J.C. Ralston in 1934 in the South. The closest thing we had was H.H. Hume in Florida. So everything went overseas. There was nothing in the South. Reconstruction, all of that in the 1800s, the South was destroyed botanically. So J.C., think about what J.C. did in 1977 with Tony Avon did. I mean, we didn't have this real botanical collections in the South. So anyways, and it gets passed around Germany and Europe and then forgotten in the U.S. And there it is. It's really cool. Not like almost a lot of lace parasol, but cool. And I looked all over this plant, got plants in Germany, had them sent to us, grew them in our nursery, and they grow like a weed, straight up. Branches, I'm like, they sent us the wrong thing. Here is Andrew Bunting. I hope you've had Andrew down for lectures. Put him on the list from Swarthmore. This was a plant we found at Tyler Arboretum in Pennsylvania. Oh, we got it from a nursery in 1992. So they're just doing that. It's kind of ugly. Oh, we're going to rip it out because, you know, no one likes it. I'm thinking, no, just leave it there. It's not hurting anybody. And you can't find it in the industry. And so maybe that has potential to work. Let me take it back. So anyways, we've got another accession of this. Actually, we got cuttings off this plant, and they're still growing upright. So I don't know what's going on. When it gets that signal to weep or to grow horizontally, I don't know. It's very frustrating. So it will probably always be relegated to the backwater of the Botanical Garden. When we were in Holland, it's nice to know that the Dutch have a sense of humor. This is liquid ambar steracifluid gold member. So if you ever saw any of the Austin Power movies, no one probably saw an Austin Power movie in here. Camper, come on, help me out here, Austin Power. This is a funny joke, man. Okay, so gold member is the bad guy, and it has gold twigs, golden twig liquid ambar. Is it enough to sell? My mom made me cut down. There's one sweet gum left in our yards in the back 40, and I will not cut it down. But she made me cut she's not a bad lady, she's a great mom. But she made me cut down all the sweet gums to get the sweet gum balls. So, is it going to stay there? And here's something. Yes, I did it. I am serious. This is a hackberry. That is a weeping hackberry. Celtis occidentalis that I found at an estate in Maryland, actually a plantation. It dates to the 1720s. I was there to look at their catalpas, which are still alive in 1720s. And this is Celtis occidentalis, a weeping form. What do you think, Tony? It's pretty cool. It's a hackberry. Still won't help it. But I also found a variegated hackberry. This is at Dahl's Arboretum, and Richard Lawson is going to propagate this. It is ugly. It is like, it's really like, I have a sickness. I really should, I'm supposed to be breeding good trees for the urban forest, and I'm selecting a bunch of trash. But anyway, it's just fun. You know, you have to do that. I mean, breeding is a slow process. I mean, the first crosses I made in 2006 are just now coming into flower, so I had to do something for the last 6 years. Some plants really are just beasts. This is Fraxinus excelsior pendula. This is the old weeping form of European ash. And this is at Spring Grove Cemetery. I finally had the chance to go to Spring Grove, which is really a mecca for woody plants. And I'm thinking, EAB can't come fast enough. This is a hideous tree. They're trying to figure out which trees to save. I thought, I had a conundrum. I realized, it's kind of an unusual cultivar. You don't see it much. And I'm thinking, well, the reason you don't see it is because it's ugly. It's like, so, it's like an octopus on land. It's totally bizarre. I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, when I was putting this talk together, it's really hard to talk bad about a plant. I think all plants are cool, but you know, sometimes you just want to have the devil's advocate over here and say, that's a crappy plant, move on. And this one is easy to say, this is a bad plant. This is Quercus robur, General Pulaski. You ever heard of that one? There's a reason. That's it. Contorted, a little fastigiate, I guess, with powdery mildew. I mean, it's just like, man, whatever nurseryman selected this has never made money on anything. But it's a dog. Actually, this is one of the plants that made me think about this talk as well. I was like, I don't even know if I had a botanical collection. And I thought about JC. I thought, well, maybe let's get a chance. So, is the fastigiate white oak still here? It's not as big as it once was, I imagine. But Quercus robur fastigiata. Is it a good plant? Is it a great plant? Historically, it's a great plant in Europe. It's been a good plant in parts of the United States. It's a pretty good plant in this area, except for powdery mildew, right? This is an old plant at Beltsville. This is where I work. This is the administration building. Behind that is our labs, the historic labs at Beltsville. Even though I am at the National Arboretum, we got kicked out. They kicked all the scientists out and sent us up to Beltsville. So my office overlooking the bonsai courtyard is gone. And now I'm in a basement. Anyways, the thing about Quercus robur is not so much, you got to look at it now and say, well, it's a start. What do we do with it for southeastern United States? What do we do with it in North America where the plant is not straight out of the box, the perfect plant? Well, you breed it, you collect seeds, and I don't have good images of these, but what has basically happened is Quercus robur, the oaks, thank you, are promiscuous. And so they hybridize freely. So what you get is the powdery mildew magnet over here called Quercus robur, the English oak, has bred with just about anything else that's called a white oak. In this case, Quercus bicolor, the swamp white oak, to give you the hybrid of Quercus warii. This is the hybrid, and it's powdery mildew free and inherited the fastigians. So you see, as a landscape architect, you'll see Quercus warii regal prince, right? You'll see some other cultivars, kindred spirit, which is a very narrow one. So we're getting, what we want is that fastigiate look from Quercus robur, which we haven't found in Quercus alba, but we want it in better plants. And so, again, plants aren't new. This is always funny. This is a weeping bald cypress. Anyone grow any weeping? We have weeping bald cypress here. What is there? 3 or so cultivars. Everybody's excited, you know, past the falling waters, whatever, cascade. Well, guess what? 1891 is when the first weeping bald cypress was introduced in Germany. That was an offshoot of it. So it's, you know, good plants, bad plants. Maybe that was a horrible plant back then and no one really cared about it, but things have changed and all of a sudden we're excited about weeping bald cypress. I show this one. Anyone recognize that plant? Edgeworthia chrysanthemum. 1910. E.H. Wilson took this picture in Yichang, Hubei province, and talked about this plant. 1910. When did you sell your first one, Tony?
Probably late 80s.
Late 80s, early 90s. And it wasn't chrysanthemum. It was papyrific.
Right.
So here it is, a plant that was ahead of its time. It took how long? Almost 90, 70 years before someone really got it into cultivation. And now, would you garden without Edgeworthia? So it's a wonderful plant. It takes time. It takes a long time. There it is. That's yours, Tony. That's snow cream. Wonderful plant. Gold rush. I don't know the difference between some of these. That's gold rush up at Norfolk. And I remember this. I'm about done here, wrapped up. JC said something. I don't know if he said it. I get memories, you know, sort of change over time. It may have been that I read it in the Chronicles. I mean, I read through that. Had to read it in Tracy Traeger's class. It was required to read. And so I had it and cherished it. And I read other things from him. I collected other writings. So I don't know if he wrote it or if he said it. I sort of think he said it, even if it was through the pages. But this is Davidia involucrata, the famous dove tree that Wilson went to China to collect. And by the way, what was the tree that he climbed up to collect the fruit of the Davidia? I have a plant for you. I'll cheat. I'll give you. If anyone knows this answer, they get one of the plants I brought. Seriously? Mark Wevins, Mark, you don't know this?
No.
You have it here in the Arboretum. He climbed Hymenopterus henryi to get the fruit of the Davidia. And anyways, so very famous. You have Hymenopterus, of course, here. So now you've learned something. You can go home. And this, JC had always said, you know what? If everyone grew Davidia, we would think it was the trashiest tree because it would look like our lawns were toilet paper. And this is it's true. This was the tree that National Arboretum. Man, when that thing was done, it was a big Davidia. That thing was done. It was just, and they would turn brown. Holy moly! When you're in an urban area in DC and you see that, you call up Lawson and say, "I think the sewer line broke." So again, you know, it's perspective. This is a holy grail of plants. We really run it. But can you imagine if you had an Laelia? But you know, it might only be about 10 days a year. It looks like that. But anyway, and I love crazy plant people. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I show this just as a teaser to Tony. Does anyone want that? I don't know. Is it good or bad? This is a golden Rhipidophyllum hystrix.
You didn't see ours today?
I didn't.
Next year.
So I don't know if this is, you know, pH. I don't know if it's virus. I don't know if it's what. But that's cool. And it gets you excited. It makes you pay attention and think about what could be. And there's no accounting for American taste. If I had a trailer, I might want to draw your attention away from the trailer as well. But we always have Platyplatus orientalis. And I agree with Durr. Durr says this in his book. You can go to Maine, you can go to Death Valley or the Florida Keys, and Platyplatus will live. That's saying something. It might be a poo-poo plant, but you know, that is an amazing plant. Is it a bad plant? Is it a good plant? Is it a good taste? I don't know, but it's fun to think about these things. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed it.